Hi, I'm Jared Whitman, and I'm here with John Russell, and this is The Pursuit of Being a Stand-Up Leader. We're breaking down John's book, Be a Stand-Up Leader, the ABCs of Getting the Job Done Right, chapter by chapter. In each podcast episode, we have a conversation based on our experiences, which is really cool. It's a really cool experience because John has 40, 60, 40, 40, you're not that old, 40 years worth of experience. And I have about 10 to 15 years of experience in marketing and advertising, sales, same with John. And I have a little bit more video component than John does. But we get a chance, we go over John's books chapter by chapter. And each topic, we have a conversation from our experiences, which is really cool because you get a older generation, a younger generation, different perspectives, and it's a lot of fun. So we're really excited to have you along for the ride. This episode, we're talking about probably one of the most important concepts of starting a business, and that's making money.
When you're starting a business, I think the thing that makes people the most uneasy is, how am I going to make money?
Yeah.
Where's it going to come from? Where are my customers going to be? How am I going to bill? How much am I going to charge? Which method am I going to use for billing? Am I going to use by the hour? Am I going to bill by the project? Am I going to go on retainer? Or am I going to become an employee, but working for myself under a subcontractor relationship?
Yeah.
It's a different way of looking at it. I've done them all.
I think what's really cool about what you just said is there's so many different opportunities to approach the job based on what your business is. So there isn't like one cookie cutter method. Although it gets a little crazy if like one business is doing all these different ways of making money, but you don't have to approach your business and how you make money by, it's just like this. I'm by the project, or I'm by the hour, or I'm by the retainer. I only work on retainers. And maybe if you niche down and that's your way of making money, cool. But when you start off, you don't have to have that one way to make money. There's different ways.
It's very difficult to establish pricing models that are effective, create a platform for profitability, cover your costs of operations, and be able to come out on the end of a project and be able to show a profit.
Right.
It's been interesting because almost all of my clients have been on retainer.
Yeah.
Because when I go to work for a company, I'm kind of like an unpaid employee. Even though I'm getting paid, I'm not on their payroll.
Right.
And so you establish an agreement, and 9 times out of 10, a retainer, to hire somebody like me or somebody like yourself, will save the company thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
Because they don't have to pay health insurance. They don't have to pay benefits. They don't have to take out FICA and Social Security. Yep. It's just, we're going to cut you a check for whatever we agree to at the end of every month. So then, as a solopreneur or as an entrepreneur, if you're in the service sector, like I am, marketing consultant, then you have to be able to determine what your costs of operations are, and then determine how many hours you're going to put in, and your calculation is going to generate a retainer amount.
Right.
But before we get too far into that, I wanted to point out that the conversation that we're having today is more for home services companies and more for entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, independent contractors. If you're a business and you have a product, it's a slightly different setup.
Right.
But when I got into the home services consulting business, I know you're involved in that. There's a lot of people involved in that.
Yep.
Because home service companies make up, and I'm going to guess, about 50% of the small business economy is roofing, lawn and garden, paint, interior, exterior. It goes on and on and on.
Yep.
Heating and air conditioning is a gigantic field.
Yep.
And most of those are profitable businesses because it's a specialty. It's a specialized skill.
Right.
The average homeowner isn't going to go down in their basement and open up their furnace, diagnose the problem on why there's no heat in January when it's 10 below. So you're calling somebody who you know and trust, inviting them into your home to fix your home heating system, or in the winter or in the summer in Arizona, it's all air conditioning all the time. So it's a big business. And I've worked with a lot of companies where the business ebbs and flows. Like in July, in the summertime, air conditioning is a premium product.
Yeah. Seasonality.
It's huge. Super, super busy in June, July, and August. Well, then there's the in-between summer and winter time. I'll call it September, October, November, at least in the Midwest, where your air conditioner might not be running and your heater hasn't turned on yet. So these home service companies who can't manage a steady flow of business because they're not set up correctly have these low periods where they're not making money.
Right.
But yet they still have all the same overhead.
Yep.
They still have all the same operational costs. And their cash flow can dip below what they need to make payroll. I've seen this happen on a number of occasions. And then what happens is an opportunity will come up and they'll lowball it. Because they want that contract so bad. Because they need to make payroll next month.
Right.
And they don't have any big bank account that they can draw upon to cover their expenses during the downtime. And so they'll do a project and make no profit. And that is a huge mistake.
Yeah.
Even though they're feeling good because they're making payroll,
right,
they're really not making enough money to survive until the next high demand season comes, which is in the Midwest cold weather season.
Right.
That starts in December.
Usually. And
it gets January is ice cold here. February's super cold. And then March. So, it's a thing that you have to be aware of when it comes down to how are you going to sustain your cash flow when demand is low? And that's what part of the reason why this chapter is in the book. Regular companies that don't lowball projects during the off season get left out because the small guys who need the cash are lowballing homeowners. And it's like, if I'm going to save $1,000 by going with company A because he needs the business to make payroll, company B is a bigger company. They're not willing to lowball it because they got enough money to make payroll. So their revenue goes down. And it's this up and down cycle of, are you making money or aren't you making money?
Right.
Construction's the same way.
Yeah.
So when business is slow, oftentimes it's normal to accept a project to keep the cash flow coming in. But it's a real dangerous situation because what are you doing in the marketplace as far as establishing your brand and your relationship with the customer as far as pricing goes?
Right.
So then you're going to be known as being, I don't want to use the word cheap.
Right.
Less expensive.
Yeah, discounted.
Right. So then the next time that customer comes around, it's like last time you only charged me $800, and now you want to charge me $1,200. Well, what's the deal?
Right.
Well, I was slow before, so I gave you a deal.
It's something you definitely don't want to say to a. Don't say that was slow, but
pretty hard.
Yeah, I think most companies are gonna have like a low season special offer, special discount that they would offer,
Right.
to offset that.
So set your profit percentage. You need to be successful and develop a system to generate enough new business leads so you don't fall into the trap of deep discounting to survive.
I think that goes back to having a proactive marketing strategy instead of reactive marketing to make sure that your brand is continually in front of customers, that you're educating the customers through valuable content by showing them the benefits of upgrades. Like in Wisconsin, in the wintertime, it gets really dry because there's a lot of, it's wintertime. So having a whole home humidifier might offset that. Well, what does a whole home humidifier do to your skin? Or what does dry skin
What are the benefits?
what are the benefits? How does it affect you? How does it affect your allergies? Those types of things, those types of campaigns help educate the customer to understanding why it's benefit to have this upgrade, and that kind of offsets and continues to serve value to the customer in the off season.
Air purifiers is another product that's good during the cold weather season when people are trapped inside and all the air that's going inside their house is basically just recirculating.
Yep.
A little air filter like I got on my furnace is only going to take you so far.
Right.
And there's different types of air filtration systems,
Yep.
all the way up to the real air purifier, which kills any bad germs or any bad viruses or any, it gets zapped in the system.
Correct.
So it doesn't get passed on into your airflow. The other thing that a lot of home service companies do to handle the low periods is maintenance programs.
Oh, maintenance programs are a great tool. Not only are you getting a monthly revenue from a customer base, you can basically upsell. It's like an insurance policy, right, for your equipment to make sure that it's running correctly, it's running smoothly, it's going to stay running. When do you need insurance? You don't necessarily need insurance until you actually need insurance.
We can check it now and make sure it's really running well.
Yep.
Or you can wait for it to break, and then it's going to cost you more later.
Correct. Yeah.
That's the theory behind it.
You get special you can build a plan to get special discounts. This is like I've seen this more for HVAC, plumbing, and electrical companies.
Right.
But if there is a way for other home service companies to bring value, like if you install siding, maybe you start doing pressure washers.
Right.
So you can power wash the siding to make sure that it is continuing to be clean and whatnot.
Right.
Or invest in a landscaping. There's all this different stuff that you can do to add value to get that maintenance plan, that monthly revenue.
I'll call those secondary services.
Yeah.
So in the world of HVAC, an annual maintenance agreement can be had for as little as $99 per season. They try to come out and do both of them at once.
Right.
They'll check your furnace and air conditioner at once, but there's a little sweet spot in there when it's easier to do than other times of the year.
Yep.
Because you can't really check your air conditioner in January.
Yeah.
It doesn't work so good.
Correct.
And you can't really check your furnace so much in July.
Right.
So there's a little bit of a sweet spot there timing wise.
Yeah.
But a lot of companies, charge $149. I saw that advertised recently. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Okay. So, they're a little more established business.
Right, yeah.
And they're charging a little bit more because their overhead's a little higher.
Yep.
But the smaller guy who only has 2 trucks and 4 employees probably get away with $99 and still make a profit. But again, we're back to, are you deep discounting that seasonal maintenance program to the point where you're doing the work, you're making the $100, but there's no profit?
Right.
Because it costs money to send a person out with a van, and they're going to be there for 2 hours.
Yep.
You got travel time, you got insurance, you got payroll.
Yep.
Is $99 going to allow you to have any profit? Or do you need to analyze your cost for that deliverable
Right.
and say, I can't do it for 99 because I'm losing money, but I can do it for 129 and I'm still only making $30 or whatever.
Right.
So that's the mathematics that you have to do
Yeah.
in order to determine whether or not you're making money. And then you have to get good, as you pointed out, at selling the secondary services.
Yep.
And there's a lot of opportunity with that. But as a small business owner, or even as a medium-sized home services company, you need to make sure that you know what your costs are. And so you need to know what your rate that you're charging is,
Yep.
your hourly rate or whatever it is for a call. And make sure that at the end of the day, you're not going broke.
Right.
Because if you're doing work for free,
You're not really running a business.
you're only going to be around for so long.
Yeah. I look at this is more towards solopreneurs. I think I picked up a book called Profit First by Mike Michalowicz, which he talks about taking that profit out first. So I have a spreadsheet of, I put the revenue in here and I put my profit 5%. Automatically taken out, goes
Right.
in its own bucket, then
Right?
subscriptions and subcontractors, and then my pays under the subcontractor.
Do you take out money for taxes?
Oh yeah. So that
Okay.
well, that is
It's another thing.
That's under my pay total.
Right.
So it's different buckets. Subcontractors. Then if I'm working, like Lucas is under that other subcontractors,
Right.
And then my salary, and then taxes is taken out of that.
Right.
But then I can, I already know like 5% of every revenue, every invoice that I collect automatically goes into its own bucket, and that's the profit bucket.
Right.
It's 5%, which right now is
So in theory,
low.
5% is good right now.
Right, yeah, right now. But as I continue to grow and as my invoicing starts going and as I start billing out 10, 20,000, 50,000, whatever it is per month, well, that profit starts to scale
5
up.
or 10%.
Correct. Then I kind of have a good handle on where things are, and I have a good handle on my pricing and what I'm paying and what I'm paying for other people.
Right.
But as I continue to scale, those things are gonna also scale.
So you're a classic solopreneur.
Yeah.
Like I am.
Yep.
And you're doing your own bookkeeping.
Yes.
But there will come a point where you'll have to hire a bookkeeper
Yep.
to keep track of that stuff. And just as a point of information, you'll always want to keep one eye on that.
Yep.
Because I've heard stories of people who lose track of that and then they wonder why they're not making money and they go look and maybe the bookkeeper was making a mistake or maybe it wasn't getting directed correctly.
Yeah.
And some of the money is going here, some of it's going there, but it's not going to you.
Right. Well, I would say like a good rule of thought is to always make sure that you're checking in on what your agency, your second person is
Right.
doing. So
Right.
you always want to make sure you understand what they're doing, why they're doing it, and then following up, just make some time, an hour, a month, or whatever,
Yeah.
a week, whatever.
Sit down, go over with them.
To understand.
Here's the projects.
Yeah.
Here's the revenue.
Yeah.
How is it broken down? Let me see it.
Yeah.
You know?
Ask questions
Yeah.
and don't
Be involved.
I did this to my tax guy. I'm like, why are you doing it this way? And I asked, and I let him know. I'm like, hey, I'm going to continue to ask you questions until I understand. And then he got kind of annoyed, and then
No,
gave me the answer. But that's what you have to do. You have to ask questions until you understand, because if you
Right.
don't understand, then you're putting way too much trust in the person. Kind of
Because that's not our specialty.
Right.
That's the numbers, the money game
Correct.
is
Yeah.
bookkeepers and accountants. One last point I wanted to make is when it comes down to billing, when I started, I didn't want to overcharge because I didn't want to feel rejection from people who thought I was too expensive.
Right.
My friends and the people I work with are like, oh, you can charge $200 an hour. I'm like, no, I can't.
Yeah.
Because all my competition's charging 75 or 50. So I made a deal with myself where I was going to reward people for loyalty and commitment. And so I would charge them less per hour. Like normally my rate would be $125 an hour. But if you made a long-term contract with me and I was on retainer, I would lower my hourly rate to $75 an hour.
Yeah.
Because that's money I could count on. It
Yeah.
was contracted. I didn't have to go out and resell it all the time. They were getting a great deal because I was committed to them. They were committed to me. We had a long-term contract. And I made a lot of money that way.
Yep.
But there's a point where you have to raise your rates. And my bookkeeper's like, you need to raise your rates. You need to raise your rates. You need to raise your rates. I was always really hesitant to do that.
Yeah.
Because part of me is wanting to create a ton of value for my clients so that they would never let me go.
Right.
I mean, and maybe that's a fear of loss in my world.
Yeah.
Where if you raise your rates too high, they're going to be like, no, thank you. Somebody just approached me.
Yeah.
And offered to do the same thing that you're doing and more for less.
Right.
You don't even know that your competitors are out there knocking on your clients' doors when you're not there, trying to unseat you.
Yep.
And that's always in the back of your mind. After you're around a little while, you're like, I need to stay competitive so that somebody doesn't come in and undercut me.
Right.
You know, that's the danger of being a high-priced consultant. The other thing that people always ask me about was, how do you get your clients on retainer? Because they're billing by the hour or they're billing by the project. And you know how short-term that is.
Yeah.
An hour is 60 minutes.
Right.
You know, whatever that rate is for that hour, you're good. But then what are you going to bill next month? Are we starting all over again? So a better way to do it is to use an hourly rate to calculate the cost of a project. I know you might be doing that. You ever billed by the project?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like I can see that I'm going to be shooting video on Be a Stand-Up Leader for 4 hours every week, and then I've got my costs for editing and post-production, and this is going to be 4 hours at X amount of dollars, and this is going to be 2 hours at X amount of dollars. The value of that is Y. Mm-hmm. And then I've got 4 weeks of that, or I've got 4 years of that.
Right.
So then you run the calculation out, and you're like, okay, now I'm on a project basis, but it's based on a time frame that's greater than an hour, greater than a week, maybe a month. If a project's a month long, I'd rather bill them once based on good calculations.
Yep.
They know what the cost is. I know what the income is. It's fixed-based billing.
Yep.
And what people don't like is billing that is unknown.
Right.
Like,
yes.
Here we are today. I told you it was going to be 100, and you just sent me an invoice for 150.
Right.
I'm like, that's not what we agreed upon.
Yeah.
Now you got a problem because you're billing what you think is fair, but you didn't communicate that. It's not part of the project.
Yep.
So now you got a problem. So then people always ask me, how do you get your clients on retainer? Well, exactly as I was just outlining. Calculate how much time you're going to invest. Project it long term, 12 months, 365 days in most cases. If you can get a 2-year contract, great. But in our world, 1 year is a long time.
Yep.
So figure out what it comes down to per month. Call it a retainer.
Yep.
And then set that as your billing principle. Now, one of the benefits that my clients like about me billing them on retainer is I give them a ton of added value.
Yeah.
If you're working with me and I'm on retainer, I'm all in all the time. Wide open. Call me anytime, text me, email me. I'll come and meet with you. There's no limit.
Right.
And I know that's a little extreme for some people, and they're like, how can you support that? And the fact of the matter is I create a ton of value and a ton of loyalty with my clients because they're willing to commit to me for the long term. I'm willing to commit to them 24/7.
Gotcha.
And they save money all the time.
Right.
I'm not billing them every time like a lawyer where you pick up the phone.
Right.
Hey, I got a question. Okay, well, I'm running the clock. It's $125 an hour
Yeah.
by the minute. So what do you want to talk about?
Right. Yeah. How's your wife doing?
Yeah, I don't want, there's no chit chat.
Right.
Yeah, I need to know where this is at billing wise or what's the status of this. And then click, I'm off the phone. And it's like minimum $50. You're still getting billed. I didn't like that. I didn't want to be billed that way. So I didn't want to bill my clients that way. So if you can manage to develop a long-term trust relationship with your client and you can explain to them how much time and commitment you're going to make towards this, then a retainer is a good option. But you got to be careful not to underprice at that level.
Right.
Because you're giving them a discount for the long haul,
Yep.
but you're not charging your full price.
Right.
And so that's a trade-off.
Yep.
But that also gets the commitment for the long haul.
It's interesting that you said that, and I think it's really cool. But then going back to what you were saying about, what were we saying?
Talking about retainers, projects, hours.
Yeah, retainers going all or not raising your pricing initially.
Not raising your price high enough.
And I think like at some point you kind of run out of time, right? So you only have
That's right.
You only have so much time per
How
month.
many hours are there in a
right?
day?
How many hours are in a day? How many hours are in a month? And
Right.
how much time can you dedicate to how many clients? How many clients can you fit into the amount
Right.
of time that you have per month?
Right.
What are the things that you can do to offset that? Well, one is to increase your pricing because now your time is so stretched out. You might want to look for a bigger ticket
Right.
clients
Right.
that will open more doors and more opportunity for you, which unfortunately it means that you might have to let go. You might outgrow some of your starter clients. You might
Yeah.
have to alienate some of your initial clients.
Right.
Which, I know you don't want to do that.
Be careful.
I know you don't want to do that. I think the second option, as you continue to grow and want to scale your business or scale what you can do, well, now you start bringing on other team members. You build your bench of people that you can trust.
Streams of revenue.
More streams of revenue. You kind of like build
More people generating
a small
cash.
agency of more revenue making
Yeah.
opportunities, or offset some of the work that maybe might be costing your business money, like checking your email, replying to emails, doing some marketing strategy. What can you hand off to other people
Right.
at a lower rate and still retain that to free up more time and give you more opportunities to connect with more people
Yeah.
and make more of an impact. So I think there's
That's growth and expansion.
growth and expansion, and then ultimately you have to, in order to be able to do all that stuff, you have to make sure that you are making money, because if you're not making money, then you're not really running the business. It's just pretend. And
Yeah, one of the experiences that I had was with one of my HVAC clients. And we were in the expansion mode. And the question becomes, how much does it cost to hire a new person, equip their van with all the essentials, and train them for 8 weeks to 3 months? You're not making any revenue.
Yeah.
The cost to put a new HVAC technician into the field a few years back was $250,000.
yeah, it's a lot.
That's a huge amount of cash flow out the front end.
Yeah,
There's nothing coming back in return.
yeah,
You might make it back in 6 months or a year, but you're really investing for the 12 and 24 month window out in front.
yeah,
Supply and demand pricing is kind of what we were talking about. And I've always enjoyed this conversation because when you have a great product and you're successful and you have a proven track record and you can make a difference with a client that they're getting ready to hire you, if you're busy taking care of this other client who you have on a retainer at $75 an hour, and you have an opportunity to add a new client in, they're not going to get the $75 an hour deal.
Right.
And it's no offense to them.
Right.
This client made a commitment up front early on, and you're sticking to it.
Yep.
But supply and demand. I don't have enough supply to lower my price for the second opportunity.
Right.
So I'm going to charge full price.
Yep.
And in this case, $125 an hour.
Yep.
And so you can explain it almost to that. It's like, look, I only have so much time. I'm going to commit to you all of my time that's necessary.
Yep.
And here's the rate.
Yep.
There isn't a lot of discussion. There isn't a lot of back and forth.
Right.
This isn't a negotiation.
Right.
If you want it, here it is.
Yeah.
I will deliver.
Yeah.
But you have to have a proven track record first.
Yeah.
Because it takes a little bit of courage
Yeah, this is a great word to use.
to stand up.
I think like courage and then persistence and grit are also good words to use, because you have to have the courage to ask for the order and always be closing at that rate, right? This new rate that's your
Supply and demand
your
pricing.
correct your correct rate, or maybe if it's more than that, it's maybe your time to increase your rates. But you have to have the courage to be able to hear the word no.
I know.
And understand, like,
It may not work out.
and I think that's fine. I think there's enough food at the table for everyone to eat. It's about who's in your network, who you're networking with, what clients are you nurturing, how long have you been nurturing those clients, are you sharing value, how are you sharing value, where are you sharing value, what's the value that you're sharing, how are you getting in front of these clients, what are you doing to nurture and continue to build relationships with your current clients, asking for referrals, and that's how you get in. But there's enough food at the table for everyone to eat. There's 300 million people in the United States. If you're a service industry, if you're a service entrepreneur, if one person says no, there's how many other businesses, how many other opportunities that you can go for.
Right.
But you have to stand firm and be courageous in asking for a higher rate, because that's how you're going to grow.
Sometimes you don't have a choice.
Right.
And I'll give you a quick example in the advertising business. Outdoor advertising, billboards.
Yep.
There's only so many billboards. And if there's one left and it's the best billboard in the inventory, that's not going to be discounted.
Right.
It's going to be full premium price.
Yep.
In the radio business, when you only have so many minutes of commercials per hour, when you get into, I'll call it the Christmas retail season, and you're in the first week of December, and all the really smart advertisers planned ahead and bought early, and they've already committed and they've already locked in their contract rates. You come on the scene on day number 4 and say, I'd really like to be on the radio next week.
Yeah.
The normal rate would be like $75 a spot.
Yeah.
It's $150.
Right.
What do you mean it's $150? I only have 4 minutes left. Do you want them or don't you?
Right.
Because the next guy that calls is going to want them, and they're going to take them.
Yeah.
And the price doesn't matter.
Right.
Supply and demand.
Yeah.
So in general, the best thing you can do is map out your commitment in terms of your workload and your costs. Figure out where you're at cost-wise. Figure out where you need to be profitable.
Yeah.
And figure out how to charge the client fairly, but charge enough so you can stay in business.
Correct. Yeah.
It's as simple as that.
I mean, you got to take care of your living expenses. You got, as an entrepreneur, you got to take care of your business expenses.
Yeah.
And making sure that you're making money so that you can continue to bring value to your clients.
That's right.
So that you can continue to serve those that are working with you as subcontractors. I think the more, when my bucket's filled, the more I can fill other people's buckets. And I can't fill other people's buckets if I'm not making money.
Yeah, I don't remember the statistics, but small business owners, I think the average lifespan is like 5 years.
Yeah, which is.
And I remember when I started my company, I got to the 5-year mark. I'm like, I think I'm still in it. You know,
Yeah.
I'm going to make it.
Yeah.
Because I thought it through a little bit, and I built up enough of a client base so that I could afford to hire a bookkeeper, pay my accountant, and pay all the people that were on my team.
Right.
And then still end up at the end of the month with some money left over.
Yeah.
That's the name of the game.
Yeah.
So making money isn't easy. And it's not like there is an endless supply of new prospects lining up at your door, waiting to come in.
Yeah.
So, you have to go get them.
Yeah.
And you have to figure out how to make your business stand out,
Yep.
stand up, so that you can stay ahead of the curve.
Exactly.
And stay in business.
Yeah, that's what stand-up leaders
Be
do.
there for your client.
Yeah.
That is a stand-up leader.
Yeah.
So go ahead and start making some money. Don't be afraid to charge enough so that you've got a good profit at the end of the month. Put it in the bank and save it for a rainy day. Thanks for being with us.